This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Sharen Skelly, and today our guest is Jason Cranny. And Jason is a Community Services Officer with Owen Sound Police Services. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Now, today, well, before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that the day that we're taping this show is Aboriginal, Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's a day that we recognize all the cultural and the contributions that our First Nations and Inuit and Métis people have given to Canada, and actually around the world. That we see their art and their culture spreading throughout the world, and we acknowledge that today. But of course, June is Aboriginal History Month, so we have encouraged people to, learn a little bit more than they have been usually throughout the year. If you have children, encourage them to read, maybe watch some online programming about Aboriginal history, and try and educate ourselves about what's going on in the world, especially in Canada and in our province recently, about the history of the Aboriginal peoples, especially the recent history. And if we can, and we should, be allies of our First Nations peoples. And before we start, I'd like to make a land acknowledgement, especially for today. And on behalf of Rogers TV, we want to acknowledge that the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We often see that written as S-O-N, and as the traditional keepers of this land. So that's how I would like to start. And it is important to be allies, and you see that often in your line of work.
I would say, I would just say to anybody out there, feel free. I reach out to our Indigenous community. Penang Friendship Center is a great spot as well, or take a walk down to the Reconciliation Gardens down at Kelsey Beach.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, Jason. So perhaps you're a bit closer to the microphone. Sure. So we're going to talk today about, of course, community safety and personal safety. Today is first day of summer. So what a great time to have this discussion. So people will be thinking of their vacations if they haven't already started. Children will be out on force, doing all kinds of things, and they'll be at home. Well, they have been at home for 2 years, but they have been at school for a while, so they'll be at home doing all kinds of things, and they'll often be on the computer. So parents will have to be a little bit more diligent. So you were on here about a year ago. We talked about home safety, and I don't know, but it seems as though the crime seemed to be a little bit on the rise. Has that been what you've been observing?
Yeah, so what we'll find, especially now that things have opened up from COVID, and people are actually getting out and they're moving around and getting back to what you would call a somewhat of a normal routine in their lives pre-pandemic, that the home itself will be left, I guess, without inhabitants for better parts of the day, where when people were, as you had just mentioned and just alluded to, there lots of times during the day there was kids at home, and oftentimes parents were at home and working from home. And so there was lots of people and kind of buzz around the home. The community was a little quiet, but certainly around the home. So as things have started to open up, people start to get outside and get moving around, and usually the calls for service start trending upwards, and that is certainly the case here.
That makes sense. I'd forgotten about that sort of thing, throwing COVID affected everything, didn't it? It affected everything. Yeah, I know our neighborhood has always been a little bit of a hot spot for crime, but down now it's called the River Precinct. Didn't make any difference. Still crime, but it seemed to just flare up, and I wondered why. And yeah, that does make sense. People are not at home as much, but it happens at night, so I don't know. Maybe the weather, I don't know, but it has increased. So when you were on last time, you gave some really great tips to people on how to not, you can't prevent it because it's going to, if it's going to happen, but how to minimize your risk sometimes. So can you give people some tips on what to do for your home safety? How can you help minimize the risk?
Well, I'm actually glad you're having me on today because this is the perfect time to start talking about home safety and property safety, vehicle safety, all of that stuff. We kind of let our guards down as the days become longer. And for a lot of us, we're going to slowly start to vacation more, leave our houses, as I mentioned to before, a little bit more often. Mm-hmm. And it is one of the big myths is that a lot of it's called crime of opportunity. So if people aren't home and things are there for people to take, it's easy for somebody who wants to grab something or sneak in or to break in. It's easier to do it when people aren't home. So in the summertime, especially if people are heading out on vacations, we really stress people. Social media is great. The social media platforms are amazing, and we all love to brag about where we're going and why we're going. And but if you can, I mean, ideally, is to pump the brakes a bit and post those photos, those amazing photos of your trip after you're back, because what you're doing is when, especially if your social media platforms are still public and they're not private just to your friends. That you're basically advertising to anybody who has access to your accounts that you're not going to be home for a week or two or for the weekend because you're going to be, you're going to be at a cottage at the beach. You're going to be down in Florida. You're going to be, wherever you might be on your boat. You might be camping. Might be at a sports tournament. But when you mention those things, then you just open yourself up. People know that you aren't going to be home. So if you're not going to be home, it is a crime of opportunity. People know that there isn't going to be as many people around your residence and probably not as many eyeballs on your home. So again, use your social media platforms, brag about your trips, talk about where you're going, but do it after you get back.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something in that which makes so much sense. I often wonder why people, like I'll be on Facebook and I'll see I'll admit I do snoop sometimes. Everybody does. If they say they don't, I don't think they're telling the truth. People will have no settings, like their Facebook will be open to just anyone. And I often wonder, why do they do that? Like, so one solution is to put privacy settings. So if you are going to say I'm going away, just your friends will know and your family. Yeah, that's one solution right there.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't even, I mean, if you're posting photos, and people will certainly do this, and we all fall into this trap. You don't always necessarily have to say that you're gone right now. You can just start posting saying, had a great trip, or, enjoying time with family. But that doesn't mean that enjoying time with family could have been 2 weeks ago. Enjoying time with family could be in the moment. Enjoying time with family could be, 2 months ago. We don't know. So in the words you actually post the pictures, again, I know it. I've fallen victim to it myself. You kind of catch yourself because you're excited and you're posting in real time. You just have to realize that if you can, and if you're comfortable having an open setting your social media platforms, so what you post is going to be out there for everybody to see, even though that's an amazing experience. But you're also letting people know you're not home. So
that's one. So what other suggestions do you have to help people keep their homes and cottages or whatever safe?
Well, a big myth is that break and enters will often happen in the evening. Well, we also know that break and enters can happen at any time, and during the day sometimes is maybe a little bit easier. As I said before, when people are away, in the summertime, kids are kind of around a little bit more, but when kids are in school and people are out working, it's a great opportunity to sneak in and sneak out during the day, because oftentimes there's this perception that it only happens at night, and we're more fearful at night, and so we lock everything up. But we do have to be mindful that we're leaving our house, even if we're just heading to the corner store, the grocery store to get gas, whatever, to lock your doors behind you. And I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is garage doors, sheds, anything that you might actually have something valuable in it, whether it's a bike, whether it's a lawnmower, whether it's whatever could be of value to you that you classify as valuable. Make sure you lock those buildings up and close your garage doors.
That's right. Yeah, lock it up. And the one time you don't, they'll get in. I know that.
That's usually the case. And we'd say even the same thing about vehicles is when people are downtown. And I brought this with me because a lot of people will see this. We'll be able to, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's actually called Lock It or Lose It.
Oh, I've seen, yes. Yeah.
And lock it or lose it. We actually have our auxiliary officers usually go out on foot, and oftentimes I will head out with them. And it's usually, we'll definitely do a couple summer blitzes and around Christmas time for sure. Just remind people to lock their cars, because you would be surprised at how many people still leave their cars unlocked because they're just running in to get something. Again, I said it before, and I kind of sound like a broken record, but that crime of opportunity, when your cell phone's sitting there, your wallet sitting there, maybe a parcel sitting there, to open up a car door, reach in, grab it, and then leave. You're probably not, your insurance company's probably not going to cover things if you're not willing to lock it up, because you obviously don't feel that it's all that valuable.
In our neighborhood, I say they because I don't know who they are, but I've seen them. They go around every night. And I've seen them because I don't sleep well at night, and I just look at our video cams.
Yep.
And they do rounds every night, and they check every car. They do rounds every night and check every car. It's terrible.
Well, it's like I said, it's all you need is to get access to one vehicle. So, and if there's something in there of any kind of value, then, it could be your lucky day. Unlucky for you, but lucky for someone else who just is able to just reach in and grab it. And if nobody sees it, it's pretty hard for us to actually take a lot of action. So anyway,
it's awful. It really is. And we've had 4 cars. I know of 4 cars in a little over a year that have been stolen in our neighborhood. I mean, it's just hard to believe, but it's very fruitful for them.
Well, it is. And so that's why, even having me on here today and just having these simple reminders, it's really important. Your home security, your social media and internet security, your vehicle security. I mean, we don't want to live in a spot where we actually feel we're in fear all the time, which is difficult. But for most of us, it's just a click of the button when we leave our car just to make sure that it's locked. Pretty simple. When we leave our house, it's just making sure that door is just click and just lock it. You'll feel better. You'll actually, because if you leave and you're not sure, you're going to be bothered by that. So just go and just make sure that everything's just locked up, and it's nice. All your valuables are just nicely tucked away, and nobody can get access to it. The other thing I should mention, if I can, is your windows. So your windows and patio doors as well. Oftentimes they're easy to, jimmy open, or for people to get access, because we sometimes will shut our windows, but we might not lock them, especially in the summertime, because we want to push them back open. Maybe it's just raining, so you shut your windows, but you haven't locked them, and then you go to bed, so you forget to lock them. So again, if you're going to shut your windows, it takes no time just to have a little click.
Lock the windows. You shut them, but you don't think to lock them. That's right.
Especially on the main floor.
Yes, and from what I've seen on our videos, these people do not look like they've got a lot of motivation. So if they come across a locked window, that will really deter them. They'll go on to the next one that's open. Like, they really don't look like they're motivated. Like, they look like they're really looking for, as you said, opportunity.
It's when you're actually doing damage to someone's property, not that it doesn't happen, because it certainly does, unfortunately. But if you just have to, grab a doorknob, or the garage doors and wide open, you can just walk in, or you just hit a door handle and it's wide open. That is a lot easier and a lot less work. And you don't get a lot of attention on you when you do something like that, as opposed to smashing a window and breaking in. Yeah. This is a thought process that most of us think that when people are going to get into our house, they're going to come in with the baseball bats, and they're coming in in the middle of the night. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does. Yeah. But the reality is that oftentimes people get access to our valuables because, we are negligent to do the simple things to make sure that we've kept ourselves, I guess our valuables safe and tucked away, or our doors shut, like even a garage door. And again, that may be a conversation that you have with your kids and your teenagers, because when you're hopping on bikes and scooters and rollerblades, and if you're lucky enough to have a carport or a garage and that stuff is stored in there, you open it up, you take off for the day. And we drive around, with regularity, and there's lots of garage doors open,
wide open,
especially in the summer. Yeah.
Yes, that's where those keypad locks are really good, useful. But then you see the numbers that are all worn down. So
and that's it. Yeah, again, people hate doing it, but that's you brought it up. But changing your codes, or don't have a code that's something that's easy for someone to think that they might be able to figure out. So if you just don't want your keypad to be something that's easy. If your keypad is the address that's on the side of your house, that's going to be pretty easy for them to.
Or 1, 2, 3, 4 is all worn down on the keypad.
Yeah, and oftentimes people want something nice and easy for themselves, but if it's nice and easy for you to remember, it's probably going to be nice and easy for someone to actually try in the first place.
That's right. So what other suggestions do you have to help keep our homes or cottages safe?
So I think the other thing is, and if you can, ideally, if you can, deadbolts are always good to actually have on a door, if at all possible, especially in a cottage. If you can get some kind of, surveillance camera, that's great. That's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to, to have that attached to their house. But I can tell you from a policing standpoint, if someone breaks in or they vandalize your property and we have somebody on camera caught in the act, it makes it pretty easy for us to actually go to find a person and to make an arrest. If we don't really know who's done it, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult for us. So, if you have the means, and I get it, not everybody has the means to do something like that, but if you do, to go grab that, or at the very least, you can always get, security cameras on site. You can get stickers that you can put up, even if you don't have them. Then you're just, and then you're just saying that maybe I have it, maybe I don't. If you want to, take your chance, go ahead, or beware a dog, or whatever you need to do. But any kind of deterrent is good. And at the same time, I get it. People don't want to live in fear, and they don't want to feel like they're barricaded behind their house. I can totally understand that, especially in the summer. But if there's anything that can help just deter someone, you had mentioned that there's some people in your neighborhood that kind of wander around looking for, as we said, crime of opportunity. So if you can deter them, and they think, if I happen to, wander in this backyard and there could be a dog or there might be a camera on scene, then they might think, well, I'm not going to maybe take my chances with this person or this family today. We've
our video cams, or whatever you call them, have come in handy on several occasions for us and for neighbors. Police have used them for other people, and they have motion detectors, so when someone's near, they click on, and so they have come in handy. We don't make a lot of money, but we have them, and they certainly are. And motion sensor lighting, we have lighting all the time, and doesn't seem to deter them. It just makes it easier for them to see, to do their work.
Well, I would also argue that if it's a motion sensor light, and we are out 24/7, and there's gonna there's few people who are out 24/7 in the middle of the night, but we are.
Oh yes.
And if we're driving up and around the street, and all of a sudden a sensor light goes on, we're going to turn down that street. So
that's
the
right.
idea is to put a spotlight on somebody, and again, it's to deter them and to make them not feel comfortable in going in the area, because now you're lit up. So that would be another thing. So if we're talking about local businesses in town, to make sure that you leave some lights on, so that when we are driving through, we can actually see into your business, so we can actually see things that are actually happening. So
very good.
It's very unlikely that someone's going to want to be lit up or seen if they're actually in a local business. So if you can leave a light on, so that when we're driving by, we can certainly see in the windows, or we're doing foot patrol, which we do like into the wee hours and all through the night. If we usually will walk by and we'll take a look in the windows to see, if there's anything going on. And if somebody's in there, we will certainly know, because, for the most part, there shouldn't be anybody in any of these local businesses.
No, there shouldn't. Yes.
So again, leaving a light on, having a motion sensor, any type of camera, if you can afford to do that. And as I said before, it might not be for everybody, but whether it's stickers that deter, whether it's a motion sensor, whether it's a camera, anything that you can do to help protect your business, your home, your property is certainly valuable.
Do you have any particular advice for seniors?
So I would say for seniors, so one thing, if you are living on your own, the one thing that you could also make sure is that if you have a backyard, to make sure that your fence locks. Either you have a fence locks or latches. Again, when a door swings open or it's not quite closed, it's pretty easy for someone to get access. And like I said, so another thing would be is if you feel like, you're pretty comfortable living on your own, maybe you're living on a ground floor apartment or a condo, or maybe you're living in a home, a bungalow style home, your patio doors. So patio doors can easily be jimmied open. If they're not locked for sure. But B, if you got like a little a stick, or cut down a hockey stick or something, just stick it, in the tracking system, you won't be able to open up your door. So that also just might give a little bit of a sense of security for people, so that you don't just reap on and open up the door, because you're not going to be able to do that if something's actually jimmied in that track. So again, it's that you're locking it in, it's just that extra form of protection that might help you as well.
Oh, that's a good idea. I've seen people do that, and I wondered if it worked. So it does.
Yeah, we certainly do it, and I would highly recommend it to anybody else.
Oh.
I guess the other thing is, if you're going to be gone, to leave some lights on, specifically outside.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to do that. And also, if someone's picking you up and you're heading out for the evening with somebody else, and you actually have a garage, where if you park your car inside your garage and you close, that's really nice in the winter. But in the summer, if you're able to leave your car out with the outdoor lights on, then it looks like you're home, even though you might not be. So whenever the lights are complete, when everything is in complete darkness, and your car's inside with the garage door down, and you have a latch in your backyard that's kind of swinging open, then you talk about crime of opportunity. No one's home. It doesn't seem like I can get access to the backyard. If I can get into that, if I can get in through that patio door, it'd be a nice little opportunity.
Oh, that's right.
That's what I would recommend for seniors. And then really, this goes for seniors. This goes for anybody. Is don't open the door to somebody that you don't know. Or you can always open up your window if there's a window close by, and you can have a conversation through your window. I would say that that's totally fine as well.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody really wants to access you, then they can always give you a call to talk to you about what they're actually there for. If anybody's going door to door, which really doesn't happen as much as it used to, usually things happen online and through text messaging and so on and so forth. But if there are some door to door people going door to door, whether it's for political reasons or whether they're going door to door for charity organizations, they usually let us know. And then if you don't already, you should follow the Owen Sound Police on our social media platforms, because we will let people know if the Canadian Cancer Society is heading around, if if they're doing anything with local organizations that are going around charity. If there's any political campaigns that are actually going to be doing door to door, we will let people know that they've already showed up. They're making us aware that they're going to be as an example, because we're in Owen Sound, in the Owen Sound area, or if you're in OPP territory, that they're going to be going door to door and doing either some canvassing, or they're going to be asking questions, or they're going to be doing some survey stuff. We can put that out to the community, so people know that they're showing up. They should have their proper identification. And they can feel a little bit more comfortable that we've already been notified.
Oh, that's great. So, and most people are able to go online. Even seniors now are pretty computer savvy.
For sure.
And they can go on and find that information out. So back to computers then. Do you have any advice for people, for computer safety?
Well, for computer safety, I think the main thing is you just have to make sure that the websites that you know what, I'll take a step back quickly. I know we don't have a lot of time here, but a lot of people have emails and email addresses, and that's usually how we get some of our information. If you're getting spammed, or it seems like you're getting spammed, if it doesn't seem right, it's probably not right. Don't click on it. If there's any don't click on it. If there's any
Okay.
sudden pop-ups that show up on your screen and you didn't ask for those pop-ups and they don't seem right, then don't click on them, because ideally that's what you want. I think the other thing would be is making sure that your computers have up-to-date security systems. Oftentimes we don't want to pay for that. We pay for everything else.
Yes, that's true.
We pay for lots of stuff for ourselves, but for some reason we don't want to pay to secure our internet. So
That is so.
make sure that you can actually secure your internet, which essentially will secure a lot of your personal information, your photos, your social media, all the things that are really important to you and your family. So if you haven't done so already, secure your internet service and make sure you change your passwords regularly.
Those are two really good pieces of advice. Now, for people that are responsible for children, be they grandparents or foster parents or guardians or parents, do you have any really good words of advice for, their computer safety? What should they be really, vigilant with?
If you have younger kids and if you buy that computer system for them, don't feel terrible having access to social media platforms or are having good conversations with their kids about what type of stuff they're looking for online. I mean, kids want to interact with grandparents. Kids want to interact with their parents. And quite frankly, safety and security is a big deal for kids. And they might, drag their heels and they might ask, why you're asking all these questions. But ultimately, it's good and it's healthy. And kids like to know that their parents care or their grandparents care or their aunts and uncles care. So always have that conversation. If a kid is just hanging out on their phones and on their screens all the time and you're not interacting with them, then you are just allowing them free access to anything they want. So connect with them, ask them to show you some stuff of what they're researching, what they're looking for. Have just some good general dialogue and conversation. You'll find it's usually a good thing.
Should you have their password?
Well, it depends. I do for my kids because at the same time, I also don't want my kids to fall into certain pitfalls and some traps that they can certainly fall into quickly because it's all about brain development. Their brain has not matured to a level that they might understand, the predators that are on the other side of that screen because they just can't conceptualize that. So, I would say 100%. If they get older in high school, you might have to reevaluate that for their own privacy's sake. But if they're not in high school, I could see why not. I don't know why you wouldn't.
That's a great, great information. Well, thank you for joining us here on Community Close-Up. There's really so much that we need to do to be safe, but you gave us the basics, like, make it look like you're at home, lock your windows and doors, and just stay safe. And have a safe summer, really, and know what your children are doing online, and don't answer the door to strangers. I mean, we've been saying that for years. Thank you for joining us here on Community Close-Up. And remember, it's your community, so take part and remain safe. COVID isn't over yet. So join us again here on Rogers TV. I'm Sharen Skelly. Join us again and have a safe summer.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
I'm David Sherman, host of Politically Speaking. Join me for my next show, where my guest will be Stuart Reed of the Community Foundation of Grey Bruce, and we'll be talking about housing. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Looking for the best way to get the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium ticket